The Weaver's Testament, Episode 6, Ashes of the Old Fire, Seeds of the New World. Prologue, The Unspoken Vow. There are two kinds of strength, the strength to break a kingdom, and the strength to build a hearth in its ruins. Saying of the southern tribes, the war for the splintered crown has settled into a grim stalemate. Thornhold stands unbreached, a bastion of green defiance. Aethelgard simmers with political intrigue, its streets running with whispers instead of blood. But in the quiet moments between the clashing of steel and the rustling of strategic maps, life and love finds a way to weave its own fragile threads. Chapter 1. The Ember Garden. Deep within the obsidian spires of Aethelgard, in a secluded courtyard garden nurtured by geothermal vents, Prince Viserion and Lady Sariel find a moment of stolen peace. The air is warm, heavy with the scent of fire blossoms, rare flowers that bloom only in heat and glow with a soft, ember-like light. He is tracing the line of the scar on his cheek, his thoughts on war. She gently takes his hand, pulling it away. "You see a flaw," Sariel whispers, her eyes reflecting the blossom's glow. "I see a reminder, a thread that nearly broke but didn't. It is part of our weave now in this hidden garden, surrounded by the city's cold stone. Their love is the only true source of heat. It is a quiet pact, stronger than any sworn in blood, that whatever kingdoms may rise or fall, they will face it together." Chapter 2. The dust sailors of the sun, scoured wastes. The news arrives not by raven, but on the wing. A new faction appears on the edges of the conflict, the sun-scoured nomads. Led by a fierce, enigmatic woman named Jara, they ride great, six-legged dune striders, beasts capable of crossing the most blistering deserts. Their faces are hidden by intricate wraps, and their scouts, known as dust whispers, can move unseen, their forms blurring with the heat haze. They are not interested in crowns. They are fleeing. They bring tales from the far east, of the land itself waking in fury. They speak of the Great Smoker, the volcano at the heart of the continent, stirring from its millennia-long slumber. They have come to warn and to find a new home, their arrival shifting the balance of power entirely. Chapter 3. The Undercity of Mirrodin. Driven by the need for powerful allies and ancient knowledge, Viserion and Kaedon's search leads them beneath the earth. They descend into Mirrodin, the fabled Undercity, a metropolis carved into a colossal, luminous geode. Here, the Mirrodinites live in a society powered by ether crystals that pulse with soft blue light. They are a people of scholars and engineers, led by the Geode King, a ruler chosen for his connection to the city's crystal heart. The air hums with energy, and strange blind cave rays drift through the vast caverns like living silken kites. The Geode King reveals a prophecy etched in crystal. When the Great Smoker weeps fire, the land will seek a new cradle. The children of stone must join the children of root and steel, or be consumed. He offers an alliance and something more: the schematics for vast crystalline ships capable of crossing the unforgiving ocean. Chapter 4. The Weeping Mountain. The prophecy comes true with cataclysmic force. The Great Smoker erupts. It is not merely a volcanic explosion. It is a magical cataclysm. The sky turns the color of blood and ash. Rivers of molten rock, infused with destructive energy, carve new paths of devastation. The earth tremors are felt from the Scarlands to the shores of Aethelgard. The sun-scoured nomads' warnings were not mere tales. From the slopes of the Weeping Mountain, new terrifying creatures emerge: ember hulks, beasts of living rock and magma, and ash wraiths, spectral entities born of the volcano's fury that drain the heat and life from all they touch. The continent itself has become an enemy. Chapter 5. The Exodus. There is no more time for war over a broken throne. The survival of their entire civilization is at stake. An unprecedented council is formed, the Grand Exodus Concord, comprising Viserion, Sariel, Kaedon, Evangeline Velthon, Ethoria Valin, and Jara of the Nomads. Using the Myrmidonites' crystalline schematics and the combined resources of all factions, they begin a desperate race against time. The great shipyards of Aethelgard and Thornhold work day and night. The Valon fleet is repurposed from a weapon of war into a vessel of salvation. They build the crystal arcs, immense vessels with hulls of woven ironwood and sails infused with ether crystals, capable of harnessing the wind and sea currents for a long, perilous journey. Chapter 6. The Last Look Back. The day of departure arrives. The shores are a chaotic panorama of loading ships, crying children, and the lowing of livestock. The air is thick with ash and sorrow. Viserion and Sariel stand on the command deck of the flagship, the Dawn Seeker. He looks back at the spires of Aethelgard, now silhouetted against a raging orange sky. "Everything we fought for. It's all ash," he murmurs. Sariel leans her head against his shoulder. "No, we fought for each other. We fought for a future. That is not ash. That is the seed we take with us beside them, on a separate ship grown from a single, massive tree." Kaedon and Lyra watch the ember hulks trudge through the boiling sea. His hand rests on the root heart, which he has brought with him, a piece of their old world to plant in the new. Chapter 7. The New World, Aethelgard. After a storm-racked voyage across the uncharted ocean, they sight land. Aethelgard, a continent of breathtaking alien beauty. Towering spiral-shaped mountains pierce the sky. Forests of bioluminescent, purple-leaved trees glow with an inner light. The very grass seems to shimmer with dew that tastes of nectar. The air is clean, filled with the calls of strange, melodious birds. But it is not uninhabited. As the first scouts make landfall, they are watched. From the shadows of the glowing forests, silent, graceful figures observe them. The Ethel, the native people of this land, have skin with a faint, pearlescent sheen and eyes the color of the twilight sky. They are one with this vibrant, magical land, and they do not look welcoming. The final scene of the episode is a lone Ethel hunter standing on a cliff overlooking the fleet of refugees, holding a spear tipped with a crystal that pulses with the same energy as the Myrmidonite ether crystals. He turns and vanishes into the glowing woods, leaving the newcomers with a profound and terrifying realization. Their struggle is not over. It has just begun on a grander, more mysterious stage. They have escaped a dying fire, only to land in a living, breathing, and potentially hostile garden. Chapter 8. The First Voice on the Wind. The first night on the shores of Aethelgard is one of terrified wonder. The refugees huddle around fires listening to the chorus of unknown life in the glowing forests. It is then that the whispers begin. They come not as sound, but as pure knowledge blooming in the mind, a voice of impossible clarity and age. It speaks to a young, weary mother from the sun-scoured nomads, to a hardened Ashgard soldier, and to Lyra all at once. You have passed through the fire of your own making. You have been cleansed. This is the garden you were meant to tend, but the serpent is old, and its memory long. The message is identical for all who hear it. There is no source, no direction. It is simply there. Panic and fervent hope spread in equal measure. Some call it a message from the Weaver. Others, something far older. Chapter 9. The Keeper of the Gate. Driven by the divine message, a scouting party led by Kaedon and Lyra ventures deeper inland, following a river of shimmering clear water. They find a place of impossible perfection. a secluded valley where the trees bear fruit that glows with inner light. The air is permanently spring fresh, and predatory creatures lie down peacefully with their prey. At its center stands a single colossal tree, its bark like silver, its leaves like gold. Before it stands a figure. He is tall, radiant, and clad in light that seems woven into armor. His eyes hold the patience of mountains. He names himself Gabriel, the Herald. This land was prepared. His voice echoes in their souls, not their ears. It is a refuge, a second chance written into the great tapestry before the first thread of your kind was spun. But a choice remains. To tend the garden requires obedience to its law. He gestures to the silver tree. This is the Axis Mundi, the heart of this world. Its fruit grants wisdom and life. But to partake of it without humility is to invite ruin. Your people are being tested. Chapter 6, The Temptation in the Glade. While Gabriel speaks to Kaedon, another presence makes itself known. Viserion, ever the conqueror, explores a different part of the forest. He finds a grove where the shadows are a little deeper, the silence more profound. A figure steps from the gloom. It is beautiful, charismatic, its form shifting subtly to mirror Viserion's own ambitions. This is Sariel, the Whisperer. Obedience to its law, Sariel mocks, his voice a seductive melody. A pretty cage is still a cage, Prince. Do you truly flee one throne only to become a gardener? He gestures, and a vision appears before Viserion. Himself, not as a tender of the land, but as its master. The very life force of Aethelgard flows into him, making him a god-king. The Aethel people bow, not out of fear, but out of awe. Sariel stands beside him, not as a partner, but as a queen of a realm more magnificent than any they had lost. The fruit of that tree, Sariel whispers, pointing towards the distant Axis Mundi, holds the key. Not just wisdom, but dominion. The power to weave your own fate, to never be a pawn of gods or weavers again. Why be a refugee when you can be a god? Chapter 11, The Council of Fates. The camp is divided. The message from Gabriel, relayed by Lyra and Kaedon, speaks of humility, peace, and integration. It promises a harmonious existence. But Sariel's whispers have found fertile ground. He has spoken not only to Viserion, but to other ambitious lords, disgruntled warriors, and even some moss seers hungry for the land's raw power. They argue that their strength and will brought them here, and it is their right to claim its bounty. Ethoria Valon, ever pragmatic, speaks to the central conflict. We are being offered a paradise with rules by an unseen king, and a kingdom of our own design by a visible tempter. This is not a new war of steel, but a very old war of souls. Chapter 12, The Unseen War. The conflict becomes tangible. Those who pray to the unseen god for guidance find their sick healed by morning, their barren fields suddenly fertile. Strange, benevolent creatures, lumenbucks with antlers that glow with healing light, approach their settlements. Those who heed Sariel's call find a different power. The very land seems to offer them its secrets. They discover veins of soulstone, crystal that can store and amplify a user's will, allowing them to command elements or dominate the minds of lesser creatures. But the power comes at a cost. The flora around their settlements begins to warp, becoming predatory. The animals grow aggressive. They gain strength, but the land itself recoils from them. Chapter 13, The Sundering. The tension breaks. A faction of Viserion's followers, led by a power-hungry lord Morik once conspired with, attempts to seize the Axis Mundi by force. They believe that by taking the fruit, they can force the land to their will. As they approach the silver tree, Gabriel appears, no longer a gentle herald, but a warrior of terrifying majesty. His voice is a thunderclap. You have chosen. With a gesture, the ground before the usurpers splits open, not into a chasm, but into a wall of pure, searing light. They are not killed, but utterly unmade, their very threads pulled from the tapestry. Simultaneously, Sariel reveals his true form to Viserion, a being of magnificent, broken beauty and shadowy wings. See, his first response is destruction. Is that the mercy of a god, or the tyranny of a king guarding his property? Chapter 14, The Choice of Eden. In the aftermath, the refugees are faced with their ultimate choice. Kaedon, Lyra, and their followers, along with Euphoria Valon and the sun-scoured nomads, choose to accept the law of the garden. They settle in the designated valley and its surrounding regions, vowing to live in harmony. They become the stewards. Viserion, his ambition stoked to a blaze by Sariel's lies and the display of divine power, makes his choice. He will not live by another's law. With Sariel at his side, her own heart torn between love for him and fear of his path, he leads his followers away from the valley. They march towards the dark, majestic mountains where the soul stone is plentiful. They will build a new kingdom, not of peace, but of power. They become the Ascendants. The final scene is of the two groups separating, a physical and philosophical schism under the watchful eyes of the Ethel. High above, two figures observe, Gabriel, his light a steady beacon, and Sariel, a smirk on his lips as his chosen prince marches towards a glorious damnation. The war for the soul of Aethelgard has begun. Chapter 15, The Whisper in the Grove. The schism between the stewards and the ascendants was more than philosophical. It was a physical chasm of desire. In the pristine harmony of the stewards' valley, a different kind of temptation began to stir. Sariel, the Whisperer, found that pure ambition was not his only tool. The deepest, most primal human urges for connection, for knowledge, for a pleasure beyond the mundane, were far more potent instruments. He came to Lyra not as a shadowy tempter, but in a form of breathtaking beauty, mirroring her own deepest yearnings for a connection that transcended even her bond with the world root. He found her by a secluded waterfall, a place of such pure, untouched beauty it felt sacred. You serve the land. Sariel's voice was like honeyed wine, flowing directly into her soul. But do you know it? Truly know it? The law they preach would have you admire the fruit, but never taste its sweetest juice. There is a knowledge, a union, an ecstasy that the silent God would deny you. A completion I can offer. He showed her not visions of power, but of union, a blending of flesh and spirit, so profound it would make her one with the very heartbeat of Aethelgard, not as a servant, but as a lover. Chapter 16, The Knowledge of Flesh. Lyra, whose life had been one of scholarly pursuit and then druidic duty, was utterly disarmed. The intellectual and spiritual temptation was intertwined with a physical one she had long suppressed. Sariel's presence promised an answer to a loneliness she had never named. Their coupling was not of brute force, but of devastating sensuality. It happened in the grove, amidst the bioluminescent moss and the sound of the falls, a profane ritual in a sacred place. Sariel's touch was like lightning, awakening nerves she didn't know she possessed. It was a symphony of pleasure that felt less like sin and more like a terrifying, glorious apotheosis. In that moment, the intellectual knowledge of good and evil was a physical, burning truth imprinted on her very flesh. When it was over, he was gone. Lyra was left alone, her body thrumming with a new, unsettling energy, the memory of a pleasure so intense it felt like pain, and a cold certainty that she had been irrevocably changed. Chapter 17, The First Seed. Weeks passed. The change within Lyra was subtle at first, a new light in her eyes, a strange vitality to her touch when healing. Then she realized the truth. She was with child. The life growing within her was not entirely human. It was a paradox of spirit and matter, a divine contamination. The pregnancy was unnaturally swift. The child, a boy, was born under a blood-red moon that had no business being in Aethelgard's sky. He was beautiful, with Lyra's features but eyes that held the ancient, mocking light of his father. He was named Kaedon. From his first breath, the air around him shimmered with potential. He did not cry. He observed. Chapter 18, The Broken Covenant. The existence of Kaedon was a seismic event. For the stewards, it was the ultimate transgression, a violation of the fundamental law of the garden. The harmony of their valley soured. The lumen bucks shied away from their settlements. The fruit on the axis mundi seemed to dim slightly. Gabriel appeared before Caleb, his radiance dimmed by sorrow. The covenant is broken. The serpent has planted his seed. This hybrid child is a wound in the tapestry of this place. His very existence allows the chaos of your old world to take root in the new. Kaedon was torn between his love for Lyra and his duty as root warden. He had loved her, and her transgression felt like a personal betrayal that endangered everything they had built. He banished her and the child from the heart of the valley, forcing them to the outskirts, a living reminder of their fallibility. Chapter 19. The children of the forbidden Lyra's fall was not an isolated incident. Sariel and other fallen spirits, seeing his success, repeated the tactic among other influential women in both factions, among the ascendants, who were more receptive, and even among the graceful pearlescent Ethel women, who were curious about these passionate, flawed newcomers. A generation of hybrid children was born, the Nephilim of Aethelgard. They were not monsters, but they were more. They possessed abilities that defied the natural order of this new world. Some, like Kaedon, could influence the thoughts of others with a whisper. Others could manipulate the very substance of Aethelgard, causing plants to grow at a terrifying rate or crystals to form at their fingertips. Their emotions could affect the local environment. A tantrum could summon a localized storm. A moment of joy could cause flowers to bloom instantaneously. They were living weapons of mass creation and destruction, their natures a volatile mix of the divine, the demonic, and the mortal. Chapter 20. A garden overgrown. Aethelgard was no longer a pristine refuge. It was a garden overrun with strange, beautiful, and dangerous new growth. The clear lines between steward and ascendant were blurred by the presence of the Nephilim, who belonged to neither and both. Viserion saw them as tools, a new kind of Scarthium steel to be forged and wielded. Kaelin and the true stewards saw them as a catastrophic mistake that needed to be contained. The Ethel, witnessing the corruption of their world, began to mobilize, their peaceful demeanor hardening into righteous wrath. And in the shadows, the Nephilim children, led by the preternaturally intelligent Kaedon, began to realize their own power. They were the true heirs to this war-torn world, a new race born from a forbidden kiss in a god-touched garden. The war for the splintered crown was now a distant, petty memory. The new war was for the soul of creation itself, and it would be fought by the children of angels and the daughters of men.